He hasn't shined there, my friends, and welcome to the I Give a Damn podcast, brought to you by Fluorescene Media, the same company behind ODs on Facebook. Today we are joined by Dr. Shalu Pal, FAO. She's a private practice owner with many accolades and mastery of several subspecialties in the world of eye care, stretching from ocular disease to specialty contact lenses, and even the topic of today's conversation, myopia management. I know for some, myopia management might sound like a niche field, but as more research comes out, we are steadily observing it's here to stay, and optometry is at the front lines. In our conversation today, we discuss Shalu's journey from her initial spark of interest in myopia management to the very strategies that she has employed to build her myopia practice. We also explore various treatment options in myopia management, including Dr. Pal's insight on methods such as orthokeratology, Atropine, and prescription eyeglasses lenses for myopia. We also touch on upcoming technologies in the pipeline that may change the way we approach myopia as a whole. So, whether you consider yourself a complete master of myopia management or you're just curious and want to learn more, you're in for a treat with today's episode. Please click those like and subscribe buttons, and let's dive into the conversation with Dr. Shalu Pal. Well, thank you, Shalu, for being here. This is always a huge honor whenever a new guest comes on the show, and you have just an amazing list of accolades and accomplishments in the profession, and so thank you again for being here and just taking some time out of your day to speak with us.
I'm so excited to be here with you, Joy. It's going to be a lot of fun to chat with you. I'm looking forward to this.
With just for our viewers and listeners who haven't met you before, or haven't had really the great honor of listening to you lecture or hearing all that what you've done for the profession of optometry, can you give us kind of a little bit of your backstory of kind of how you even found optometry in the first place and how you ended up finding your path into things like private practice and lecturing?
Oh, gosh. I think to understand my path, the first thing you need to know is my why. Mm-hmm. And you may have heard this concept by Simon Sinek of, we do something, this is what we do, this is how we do it, but why do we do what we do? And before I even knew that this was a concept, I always had a why. And my why was always happiness. And when I was, younger and going to undergrad, my parents wanted me to become a doctor, but I wanted to be a math teacher. So I did a double degree. I did biology and math. I said, I'll make you guys happy and I'll make myself happy. And by the end of, close to fourth year, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. And so I said, let me explore this idea of being a doctor. And I hung out with 10 different doctors and just shadowed them. And I only had one question for them. Are you happy? And every single one of them were like, oh, and this, and had something to complain about, whether it was their career, their profession, the family life, the lack of time. They were all complaining. And I walked into my optometrist's office. He was laughing. The staff were laughing. The patients were laughing. You didn't even need to ask. I just knew everyone was just so happy. And I said, okay, this is what I want to do. And that's how I decided. And
that's amazing.
Went from there.
That's probably one of the best answers I've heard.
And that's how I picked my optometry school. And, I didn't have anyone in my family that had gone down this path before, so it was all new for me. So I scoped out a whole bunch of different schools and chose the one that just, resonated with me. And beautiful Southern California, SCCO, the campus was beautiful, the weather was beautiful. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be happy here for 4 years.
I could study here.
And then I went on to do a residency in Oklahoma, and I stayed there to teach for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And then again, this happiness thing slipped a little bit and I wasn't feeling so happy. I'm like, something's off. So I really sat back and started to analyze, like, okay, what actually makes me happy? And the top 5 things had nothing to do with optometry, and I was so confused why optometry was not on the list, because I was so passionate about optometry. From the day I started, I was just like, I love this profession, I love what I'm doing. But I soon realized that there was things that were missing in my life. Being close to family, I was missing birthdays and events and just hearing about them and seeing photos, and I'm like, I need to move back home. And everything sort of guided me back home, and I realized that the things that were on my list, like traveling and family and fun with friends and listening to music, optometry helps you get all of those things. You can still be passionate about optometry, but the purpose of optometry is, yes, to help people and to do good, but it's also to fulfill your requirements of happiness. And so that's how I moved back to Toronto. Ended up working in 5 different settings, and then finally found a home for myself. Ended up taking over a practice for a doc downtown who was leaving, and she needed someone who specialized in contacts, and that's what I had done my residency in. So we were a good match. Took over her office and have just been growing and growing the office. One of the things that I missed while, being back in Canada, at that time, we had no TPA legislation whatsoever. So you couldn't prescribe anything. You could only use 0.5 tropicamide in the office. Like, you had nothing. And I was missing everything that I was doing in Oklahoma. YAG caps, PIs,
Right.
SLTs. Like, it was one extreme to the other. And I started thinking about what I had in Oklahoma and in optometry school. Like, every aspect of optometry I had access to by being at the school. So I said, I'm going to create that clinic that I could refer down the hallway to a specialist in that area. And I wanted my patients to have everything in that one office. And so I started finding the best of the best in all those different areas. So I brought on, now we have 5 other doctors, and we have the best in concussion rehab, the best in pediatrics, the best in all of the areas. And we've got every specialty in that office. And we're all on the same page. We all care about joy, happiness, bringing joy to each other. Our staff are all the same. We just want to make the lives of our patients better. So it's a very warm, wonderful environment to walk into, because that's where I want to work, right? I want to be in a place where people are happy.
Yeah.
It's always been my why, and I've built the practice around that same why.
And I think you're making it exciting for me. I'm like, maybe I should look into higher, to doing that. But I think the setting your happiness is something that I think you've touched on.
Yeah.
An important thing I think a lot of people have pushed to the side, especially your own happiness, because we do spend so much of our especially our early lives trying to please people like maybe our parents or other loved ones or friends, or trying to earn people's friendships, right? And I think it's a tough lesson that I think we all hopefully overcome.
You can take care of yourself while still taking care of other people, right?
But you do have to take care of yourself first, right?
You really
it's like being on an airplane, the oxygen comes down, you have to help
your
yourself
mask
first
on
before you
first.
help the person next to you.
100%. 100%.
So you went into private practice, and you still are doing mainly contact lens specialty, or you do...
I do a couple of different things. So it started with specialty lenses. Taught myself how to fit scleral lenses, because we didn't learn that in school at the time. I'm dating myself here. With a lot of help from the industry, and from there moved into dry eyes, using the specialty lenses to really help people with dry eyes. And then that was a huge passion, which later on brought about ocular aesthetics and the instrumentation capable of helping dry eyes. Now you have another aspect to the office, and somewhere in the middle of there I got pulled into myopia management. And so those are kind of the 4 top areas that I really focus on.
And not, quite honestly, all of those are huge kind of top topics, I would say, in the last 3 to 5 years or so. Dry eye's been, I think, popular for a little bit longer as more medications and treatments and procedures have come out.
Absolutely.
But it's great because, you started with the contact lens world, and one of the biggest issues with contact lenses is what? Dryness. Yeah. So it makes sense.
It's a perfect combination.
With myopia, I'm fascinated because even when I was in school, and I graduated back in 2015, residency in 2016, there wasn't that much on myopia management, and before that they even called it myopia control, right?
That's right.
We've kind of changed the verbiage on that. How did you find how did you find that as a passion, as a subject and interest? How did you fall into it?
I remember the day. So I was in a meeting and I was sitting beside Jeff Wallin, and he just took me under his wing, and he's like, you're the new kid on this committee, and let's become friends. And we very quickly did. And I said, tell me about you, and what do you do? And he starts talking about myopia management. I'm like, what is all of this? And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been doing ortho-K since I graduated. I've been doing myopia management all this time. I didn't even realize it. And I just started picking his brain and learning more and more. And that was well over 10 years ago. And just kept going from there, and got pulled in as, hey, she knows a little bit more. Let's bring her into this group, and my education just kept growing and growing, and the passion for it and my understanding for it has just really evolved, where to me, myopia management is standard of care now. It's not a choice. It's just, this is my top recommendation. If you fall into a risk category or you're a myope, this is what I'm going to offer you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to try and convince you. My job is to give you my best recommendation, and myopia management is my best recommendation.
Right. Do you even lay out different options for patients, or what kind of guides your recommendations for a patient? Are you more of an Atropine, or are you more of an ortho-K? This is a lot of options, right?
Yeah, it all depends on the conversation that I have with the patient as well as the parents, right? So I call my exam my discovery. This is my time to sit with the family, the patient, and really understand, with everything we offer in our office, what can I do to make your life better? So in order for me to be able to answer that, I need to understand who you are. So we spend a lot of time talking, and I learn, and then at the end, I'm like, here's what I recommend for you in all the different categories, whether it's dry eye treatment, myopia management, contact lenses, spectacles, aesthetic treatments, whatever it is. It's like, here's all your options of what we can do to enhance the different areas where I've figured out that you're struggling with. And then we go from there. So with respect to myopia management, it's a conversation with both the child as well as the parents of, what do you know, what are you hoping to gain? And the child, what do they need? Are they interested in contacts? We're lucky in Canada to have glasses as options for myopia management. So if a child looks at me and is like, I don't want to have anything to do with contacts, and the mom is, done her research and she's come in and she's like, I want ortho-K, I'm like, there's a disconnect here that we need to massage and have the team come together, because if they won't come together, they're not going to be compliant. So very much involving the child, and then once I learn that, then it's like, okay, here's the best recommendation.
I really love that your quote just there, what can it do to make your life better? I feel like that should be a phrase that should be taught in schools, rather than just like, what brought you in today? Yeah. It should be like, at some point, it should be, what can I do to make your life better? Yeah. Because it changes your mindset a little bit of what you're doing for the patient, what you're offering. That, especially in the world of eye care, we do a lot more than just simple glasses, contact lenses. There's so many other ways we can improve your patient's life.
It's also a reminder to us of how impactful we are, and the fact that we can change people's lives. And by saying it, it's like, yeah, I've got a pretty cool job.
With being that you did start with kind of myopia, because right now I think there's a lot of resources for myopia, or at least for any doctor who wants to start incorporating these different options into their clinic or learning more about it. That's one of the frustrations I have, is like, there's a lot of avenues to go now, but I'm curious, like, to learn about it. Yep. But where did you start learning about it? Was it mainly just through mentors?
It was through mentors, yes, because we didn't have as much back then. So it was, okay, I want to learn this. Who are the people that are studying this right now? Let me sit in front of you and just listen. Whatever you want to tell me, whatever you want to share with me, and I would ask questions and learn from others that were doing this for a lot longer than I was. My education hasn't stopped in any area that I want to learn more about, right? In any of the areas that I'm specializing in. It's, you keep going to meetings, you keep reading, you keep talking to companies, you keep talking to others that are doing great things, and you just keep learning and keep growing that way. And whatever your form of learning is, whether it's sitting on a Zoom meeting, whether it's being in person listening to a lecture, whether it's sitting down with a company one-on-one or someone in the field, if you can get time with them,
right.
That's...
And is there any other specific resource that you would recommend
There's a bunch of great online platforms where you can learn a lot. Some of those websites are dedicated to patients and parents so that they can learn about myopia. There's others that are geared towards ODs. You know, Kate Gifford from Australia has a great platform there. And, you know, so there's lots of different resources online that you can just keep learning, keep diving. So many meetings.
Yeah.
You know, we have the Global Myopia Symposium, we have GSLS, the IMI meeting. That's, you know, there's so many options where if you want to learn, you just start doing a little bit of digging and the right names will come up and the right resources will just find you. Otherwise, you pick up a phone and you call a friend and be like, okay, I want to dive in, and be like, okay, let me show you everything.
Right. And you yourself are a co-editor for is it a myopia newsletter?
It is. It's called Mastering Myopia. Mark Bullimore and I co-edit this newsletter. It comes out every 2 weeks. I like to say that I take more of the practice management side of things and he takes more of the research side of things. And we've been doing this for, over 2 years now.
Good for you.
And it's a lot of fun. It's fun because I get to figure out who are the people interested in myopia management, and I do a little bit of interviewing with them. I ask people to write and speak. And it's fun because I get to give them a platform for them to shine. And some of the younger ODs, it's like, do you want to have an opportunity to write? And so they appreciate that. So it's like, let's highlight some younger talent and give other people a space where they can shine and show what they're doing in their clinics or at their universities.
I'm going to have to check on this Mastering Myopia. I've been preparing, because the topic of myopia is a very big one, and I've been personally trying to prepare a small mini-series for my YouTube, the poor kind of public education standpoint, because there's a lot of questions that and a lot of research, and there's even some what I call like the dark web scary side of myopia, where people aren't necessarily people not in the realm of eye care will make kind of outrageous claims about glasses or eyes or myopia, and it gets a little bit touchy. But I'm going to have to look into what you guys are publishing so I can better just educate myself and prep those sort of things.
I think that's the key, right? Before you dive into this, you need to do the education yourself and really understand. When a parent comes to me and has questions, am I prepared for those questions, right? And you don't need to know everything, but you have to have a good enough understanding that you can answer those questions and those concerns. And why have we not talked about this before now, right? That's a big one that comes up. Or, you know, what are the concerns? What are the risks? And they always, I need you to stop this. Well, I can't stop this, but I can slow this down, right? And just being prepared for the questions that come up. And I think that's with any specialty that you're going to start. Your first step is immerse yourself in the knowledge, understand it well enough, and then your next step is now you bring your team on board. You can't do it alone. You need your associates, you need your staff to buy into the concept of what you're trying to bring to the office and build from there. Because when you have a team working on this, bringing any specialty in the office is so much easier. Right.
It's not just you who's bringing it up. It's something that they see right away, they hear about right away.
Yep.
Your technicians already flagged the child as being a risk and maybe mentioned it, brought it up in some fashion.
Yep. We're constantly changing. We're constantly improving, right? Like in this area, every week, every month, more research is coming out, more knowledge is coming, and modifying the way we do things and keep learning. Like I think over the last 10 years, we didn't, scan for axial length. We didn't have a device to do that. And then we brought on an A scan to say, do I need this? Do I need this in my clinic? Is this going to help me with my clinical judgment? Is this going to help me make decisions on when to make changes, when not? Is it helpful? And after I proved to myself, yep, this is helpful, then we bought a biometer. And we then said, okay, I don't want to just use this biometer on myopes or people that have agreed to sign on to my myopia management plan. I want to learn more about people and kids. So I started doing it on everybody. All kids under 19 I was doing axial length measurements on to learn and to look for patterns and also to see what makes sense in my clinic. And it started the conversation a little bit more. It was easier to bring up because parents were like, what's this new test you're doing?
Yeah. That no one else has done.
No one else has done. And so it brought higher value to the clinic, and it took seconds to do the test. But it also brought an ease into the conversation. And it was easy because my staff didn't have to filter. They didn't have to, are you a myop, hyperope, emetrope? I don't even know the differences. They don't have to think. 19 and under. Just do it. And I found that also, every time you ask a patient to spend more money to do an additional test, there's a percentage that will say yes and a percentage that will say no. Mm-hmm. And every time you ask that question, you're losing another percentage of people to get to that end point of myopia management treatment. So I said, I need to skip all those steps and screen everybody and go straight to the recommendation of here's the treatment so that I don't lose as many people. And it works. Now, that's for my patients that are in my chair that have been with me for so many years. When I have someone who's referred to my clinic for my myopia management assessment, different story. I know nothing about them. I have to gather tons of information. So there is a consultation fee for that. And that's where the charge gets placed in it. But I don't do that for my patients that have been with me forever.
And again, I've heard with so many different clinics, there's so many different ways you can
so many different ways.
Whatever you feel comfortable with, what you think works the best for you, your team, your clinic style. I'm curious just because here practicing in the United States, I don't have access to the few glasses options that are currently out versus, I know there's some more kind of in research.
Yep.
But right now, what is the glasses option you have available for your patients?
Yeah, we have 3 in Canada. We have the DIMS lens by Hoya, we have the Halt lens, Stellus lens by Essilor, and we have the Dot lens by Sightglass. And it's a game changer. It's a total game changer. Honestly, they're all great. They all have just simplified our options and made our offerings so much wider. When a child sits there and is like, Mom, I don't want to wear contacts. Can I just keep wearing my glasses? It's like, yep, you can. Here, we're just going to change your glasses a little bit, but nothing changes for anybody. Like that ease of getting people into an option has just made it so much easier. Like I would love to speed up the process so you guys had access to it faster, because it takes the complexity out of myopia management. It just removes it. It just makes it so easy to just be like, this is standard of care. This is easy. I'm just going to give you my top recommendation. You're a myope. Here's what we do.
And I think I'm excited that hopefully someday we'll have that. I know we've, in our own practice with our pediatric specialist and kind of the master of the whole myopia end of things in our clinic, he's kind of the same way. He's like, this is going to become, why is this not standard for all of going to be, as soon as we have availability?
Yes.
Otherwise, I know for myself, one of the best experiences I've had with a young child was that a lot of kids come in and they want glasses.
Yep.
This girl was terrified of glasses, but she was already like a -1.5 myope. Right. And her mom and dad were also physicians. And I brought up, I'm like, well, I'm concerned about myopia, and mentioned, and she was like, this little girl, she's like 8 years old, she's crying in my chair because she does not want glasses. But then I brought up like orthokeratology as an option, and mom did her research. She already knew about it. She's like, yes, let's do that. And they were still kind of hand-holding through the process. But the next day I called them just to catch up, see how she did overnight with the first day. And mom's just like, she loves it. She came back from school and she's so happy because she could see better. And she's pretty young. She wasn't that high of a myope, but even after just one day, she was like already seeing a little bit better. And now it's been a few years. And it's just their family's like some of the biggest fans of our office.
Right. You changed her tears into smiles.
Yeah. There we go.
And impacted their whole family, right? Their family dynamics, the relationships, the excitement, like mom seeing the child happy, like in elevating that happiness factor, right? I called Ortho-K lenses my magical lenses, and I get kids excited about them because when they see that vision improvement after just one day of wear, it's magic. Yeah. It's nothing else but magic.
Do you, and I don't know if you're a consultant in any form, but do you have a favorite lens for ortho-K? One or a two, or because there's a few different brands out there, a few different designs.
Yeah, it's hard to pick one or two, right? Like, I started my education with one, and I've grown, and I have a couple in the office that I work with. Mm-hmm. They're two totally different platforms. One is more empirically fit. The other one is more diagnostically fit. Being in Canada, I have limitations with shipping. So the diagnostic method is easy because I can do a lot in office before I actually send away for a lens. Empirical fitting is great for some of the tougher cases where it's like, let me just be the tech and can you do all the hard work for me, right? And then there's everything in between. And I think you pick a lab and you start and you dive in, and when you hit a point where it's like, okay, I've hit a limit and I can't use your lens to treat this type of patient, now I need to look for a second. And it's the same sort of philosophy I use with scleral lenses. Mm-hmm. You don't need 10 fitting sets. You start with one, you learn it inside out. And when you hit a point where it's like, I can't do what I need to do with this design, I need to find a different design, that's when you move on.
With all the new research coming out with atropine, because I still have seen great success with atropine in patients.
Yes.
And it seems like there's been some new publications that people are talking about that maybe make people a little confused about it. What are your thoughts or concerns with atropine? I don't know if you prescribe it much.
Yeah, I do prescribe it, and there's so many different ways to use it. There's different concentrations, and there are studies that saying there's 0.05% is the ideal concentration repeatedly over time and time again. That's the best to use. Fair, but in practice, sometimes patients are responding to that, and our little ones in the morning are still dilated going to school, and it's not working for them. So you have to sort of take it case by case and see. And in those situations, I reduce the concentration to the level that prevents those side effects. Other times, it will be the only treatment. Other times, it will be in combination. Sometimes I start 2 treatment plans at once, glasses and atropine. When would those situations be? When you've got someone under the age of 10 that's already showing signs of progression. Maybe it's the first time I'm seeing them. They're 6 years old and they're a -2 and their parents are -8, -9. Okay, I might be more aggressive and start 2 treatments at the same time. I may start one and very closely monitor before I add the second one. So there's different ways to use it. I don't think there's wrong ways to use it. We've been using atropine in eye care for so long that the safety, I'm not worried about it. I think it's just about everyone needs to understand and be on board, and you just watch and monitor and go from there.
Since you're so much more in this world of myopia, it's something that I touch on a little bit. I try to stay at least somewhat educated in the realm of it, but I know I'm not as a specialist as you are in it. Do you know of any new treatments that are coming down the pipeline, or any research, anything that you're excited about in the realm of myopia?
Another controversial area, or an area of more learning that we need to go down, is red light therapy. And I think that's an exciting area to keep an eye on. How is it going to be helpful? How is it going to be impactful? I think that would be something to keep an eye out for.
Sure.
I think AI is going to be interesting, not so much from a treatment standpoint, but from a treatment decision-making standpoint. Taking all the information you gather, putting this in, and having a more precise treatment model planned out for the individual based on all of the pieces of data that you collect, not just looking at just axial length, but factoring axial length and genetics and prescription and age, and putting that all in, and then saying, okay, given all of this, what's the best option? So it's standardizing the way we prescribe, but with a little bit more information into the process. So I'm excited to see how that's going to all play out. So many more instrumentations available, so many different ideas floating around, new lens designs, having access to atropine in a commercial format versus it being compounded. I'm excited about that to be available. So
I think just with so many eyes turning and focusing on it and this growing interest, because we see it every day.
Yeah.
Right? Everywhere.
Every day.
Like,
everywhere.
there's not a day in my career where I haven't seen a myope.
Right.
In fact, I look in the mirror right away and the first thing and I see a myope. So
looking across the table, you see a myope.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a significant thing. The red light that you bring on, I have seen a few publications come forward. Even one, again, my pediatric specialist at our clinic sent me one of the articles on that. And I do find it fascinating because I stumbled across some other publications using red light to even help treat diabetic changes in the retina. And then there's been some other publications around health of the retina versus not in the realm of myopia, but just it brings a lot of curiosity.
Of course.
There might be more going on and more treatment options that may be available.
Red light is being used in other parts of healthcare, right? And there's the questions that I have is safety, red light versus laser light. Where's the safety line here? And I think we just need to learn a little bit more, but I think it's an exciting area that has a lot of potential.
Yeah. What else outside of just myopia are you really passionate about or curious about, excited for going forward with the whole profession of optometry and all that you do?
Oh, gosh. Every aspect of optometry it makes me really happy. I just find so much joy in it. And getting to be around people, I get so excited when I come to meetings. I get energized. A real passion has always been working with students and new graduates, being able to show them the joy that optometry can offer. I think about my career since I got into school at 2000, so almost 24 years ago now, 23 years ago. I've had so many wonderful experiences and so many great opportunities. I've met so many incredible people. I've traveled all over the world. Optometry gave me all of that, right? And to be able to excite younger students and new grads about what's possible, that's really important for me. And I think that's it's always been a part of my path, and it's an area that I want to focus on a little bit more. Giving back, I love educating, I love teaching people. Anything I learn, I want to share. And, there's so many patients out there. There's no need to keep anything just for myself. It's like, if I'm helping someone, I want you all to know how you can help your patients.
Right. To kind of transform the landscape and the world in a way.
Yeah. I feel like optometry has given me so much, so what can I give back to help the next generation and help others? And we get to do, like I said before, we get to do wonderful things by helping patients improve their quality of life. So the more that we all share our knowledge with each other, the more people we help.
And it seems like you're already doing a lot of that, right? Even with your newsletter, you're creating opportunities for other doctors to write and be like a guest writer and things like that. So
I want as many people to shine as they can.
On the flip side, one of my favorite questions to ask doctors now is, if you were ever somehow elected to be like the general surgeon of optometry, right? You're this elected official and you got to focus and work on one change that you could have for optometry, whether it be for the profession or be for the public, in the realm of optometry. If there's one thing you could change, what do you think it would be?
Oh gosh, I think there's a balance between making access to care available to everybody. And the flip side of that is really making sure the public and doctors know the value of what we do and not devaluing our profession, and really, really understanding how special it is what we are able to provide people, and not letting any agency reduce that value. I don't know how to do that, to do both of those, but that's what I would work on. Just making sure that every doctor out there realize how special they are, how hard they've trained to get to this level, and value that, and not let anybody take away from that or determine what their worth is. and have the public appreciate everything that we do and see value in eye care.
Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. You have a wealth of knowledge, and I hope that we get to have you back on again, and maybe we'll talk more about contact lenses, your first kind of love of optometry, it sounds like.
I'd be happy to. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. So that was our conversation for today. Thank you for joining us, and if you are enjoying the podcast, please do yourself a favor by following us on your favorite streaming service or subscribing to the show over on YouTube. And if you're someone who is finding value in this content and equally gives a damn about the profession of optometry, then please do us a favor and leave us a review on whatever streaming service you normally listen with. This will really help us out and help out other professionals find this content. Otherwise, thank you for listening in, and I hope you have a fantastic day.